driven by rising public interest in health, fitness, and entertainment. With government backing and infrastructure investment, the sector is poised to become a regional powerhouse. The rise of esports and virtual gaming reflects a youthful, tech-savvy population eager to engage with both traditional and modern sports formats and will impacting on the creative economy. Sport has been fueling the creative economy through media rights, merchandising, and even tourism. They created jobs, foster innovation in digital content, and attract global attention, thus positioning Indonesia as a hub for sports-related creative industry. With a projected global CAGR of 6.1% in 2023 to 2028, the sectors offer significant opportunities for economic and creative synergy. And today we have Creative Economy Vice Minister Irene Umar to discuss about sports and its impact on the creative economy and tourism sectors. Irene, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being on C today. So let's talk about how would you describe the current landscape of Indonesia's sports industry and how it related to creative economy and its growth potential.
Hi, thanks a lot for having me here, first of all, right? For us, I think creative touches on every single sectors. And for sports specifically on racing, we can see that there's a blurring line between the virtual world and the real world, where everyone now can be a racer. Previously, if you want to become a racer, it's almost impossible because the gears are expensive. Not everyone can afford a car, especially a sports car. But right now, with the simulators that's available, it is made accessible. So using creativity, how can you break through the barriers that previously existed in order to achieve a dreams? I think that's where creative, for us, the Ministry of Creativity, creative industry, creative economy actually play a role in making people feel that, hey, now there's nothing that's impossible.
Right, because if we're talking about racing, it's usually dominated by European countries, which is what you mentioned earlier. It's quite expensive to get the gears and everything, and now it's a reduced price. I mean, cheap is kind of like relative terms right there. So how far are we in Indonesia to actually having those equipment or those gears ready for us and then for developing the next athlete?
I think right now, specifically to racing, I think later on in the next sections, you'll have the guests who would be better or more equipped to answer to that. But we'd say that simulators are here. Even if simulators are here, the good news is Indonesia is filled with gamers, right? And gamers, they're the people who, what's the worst that could happen when you play a games? You basically restart, right? Game over, all right. You press restart as fast as possible. And that represents grit. That represents the character of not giving up. Regardless of what, I will need to level up and beat the next boss, right? And so the good thing is that we have the largest population of gamers in Southeast Asia and one of the top gamer populations in the world. Now, with that in mind, the games are now available for them to train on. It's just connecting the bridge of the virtual world into the reality of how we could do that. And that's why for us, Economic Creative, when we launch our logo, we did it in a race course. And we bring along the local IPs in the car because that is the new engine of growth. And that doesn't only reside in the digital or virtual world, but it also resides in the real world. And so that line needs to be broken. And previously, people talk about O2O. Right now, we have 3 layers with Web3 coming into the picture, right? So it's about breaking barriers. And same thing in the sports industry, those barriers need to be broken and it should be made accessible to all. Indonesia, population-wise, we have it. Accessibility, we have it. It's a bit scattered. For now, we would like to try to see how we can connect the dots.
Okay, so let's talk a bit the impact on the macroeconomy for Indonesia. So how does the sports industry contribute to Indonesia economy, particularly within the creative economy sector itself?
So we'll take Mandalika, for example, right? So how does sports, why is sports something that we do for fun can become an economic powerhouse, be it in different sectors, be it in tourism, be it in creative sector, and so on and so forth, right? So if we take example of the Philippines have 2 sports, volleyballs for the female athletes and basketball for the male athletes. And these 2 are now in games. And the games are developed by local developers. And Philippines, looking at the entire workforce globally, the diaspora, everyone is playing that games because they miss home. And that is economy for the game industry in Philippines. Indonesia, we have one of the most talented game developers in the world. And so it could go into that direction. Yeah.
All right. So, what government initiatives are in place to strengthen sports development, and how do they align with fostering creativity and innovations?
Well, I always believe that the creative juice will always flows the best when you are doing what you love most. And sportsmanship, most people most talents in the creative industry, we are in the industry first fueled by our passion first. And then we remember, oh crap, I have to eat, right? And then the economy just comes in. So the fusion of the two will be a powerhouse, economic powerhouse for Indonesia, and hence the tagline, the engine of growth for Indonesian economy.
Okay. So, can you tell us more about the significance of launching Indonesia Legends, like the Web3 Racing Legends, the Indonesia Game Week in collaboration with MGPA and other motorsports communities?
So when we talk about Indonesia legends, right, and when the word legends come into mind, in Indonesia, we always think about something that's more old school, or in Indonesia, we call it jadul. Yeah, kan?
Yes.
Now, Indonesia legends could be something cool, and hence launching and supporting the launch in the race course, it basically shows the blurring line again between the virtual world and the real world, because Indonesia Legends wants to bring all the simulators players on the racetrack and to see how Indonesian athletes who started off as esports athlete could be a racer athletes. And that, for us in the creative economy, we do want to endorse and support this kind of initiatives. Now, for the Indonesia Game Week, happy to say that Indonesia game conferences, IGDX, for example, Indonesian Game Developer and Expo, that's usually held in Bali. It's one of the most sought after in the region. And so with that in mind, we want to see how this year, where it's an important year for Indonesia, right? And so we want to see having Indonesian Game Developers Week to bring all the different conferences together. So in 1 week pack, we'll bring in international speakers, international crowds who are interested in the Indonesian game development scene. So we are not only consumers, but we are also producers and developers. That needs to be acknowledged by at the national scale and international. International, we are there, by the way.
Oh.
National, we are not yet there. So Indonesia Game Developers, Indonesia Game Week, it's important milestone for the industry to showcase what we have.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned earlier, like you give us an example of the Philippines, but at the same time, when we're talking about like Web3 or like video games overall, we're not only talking about, the gaming or the athlete itself, we're talking about the equipments and then like bringing in the people and then having the data center and then talking about the connections right there. Are we to expect like all of these layers gonna be at that one place for the Indonesia Week Gaming, or are there going to be a follow-up after that to support the whole ecosystem?
So the ecosystems that we have, it's there, it's decentralized, right?
Oh.
I don't agree with pulling everything in Jakarta. I agree in decentralizing it to all over Indonesia. So internet connections, we have it. We are also the largest cell phones holders, right? Owners. Our connectivity is actually pretty good, pretty competitive, especially in cities and in even rural areas. Actually pretty connected thanks to COVID, right? Everything is accelerated. And so there are good things that come out of it. We have the talents, the developers and the players, the esports players, we have them. The tools is available. So Unreal Engine and Unity are the two engines that we use. The whole world is using that. And Unreal Engine will do something interesting this year. Hopefully Unity will follow suit as well. And the dev kit for console, right, for PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, we already have it. We even have Indonesian games in those console games, right? And so it's already there. It's just that, and Indonesian games are actually award-winning in US, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, and you name it, right? So it's well known. And we just won an award from Tencent as well in China late last year, Indonesian games. So Indonesians, not a lot of people know it. Hence, I always ask the Indonesian crowd, please give Indonesian game developers one chance, right? Play the games because you have a say. You play the games and then you decide, because I'm confident with the quality that we have. It's all about showcasing it now.
It's interesting. Can you give us an idea for us that not familiar with this? So you mentioned earlier how it's such a blurred line, like from the gaming into the real world. You want to have racers, the athlete, from the esports now going into an actual racing. So how big are the industry right now just for the esport itself? And you mentioned we're winning outside of the country, but for some reason, outside of the esports, none of us, not none of us, like very little of us actually heard about this accomplishment. Like, how big is the industry right now?
I won't be able to cite data. I think the next speakers would be able to bring out the data, but I would say it's in the billions of dollars, right? But what I'm able to say is this. The reason why a lot of us do not know it stems from the fact, and I still receive these questions on now a bit less, but previously almost on a weekly basis whenever I met parents, right?
Yes.
What should I do with my kid? They play games all day long, right? But do you know what? With the games of Roblox, for example, right? There are kids that are earning, like, the highest earner, I think, is $1.8 million per year. 17, 18-year-old kid in Europe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he started at 15. And what parents' normal reaction is, where did you steal that money? What have you done? Have you done anything illegal, right? But the economic potential that could impact a person is phenomenal. Now, Indonesia, the parents, I'm glad to see that parents start to participate in playing the games. Playing the games excessively is not good, but it's about striking the balance, and that could be a good tool for family bonding. Now, when that happens and more businesses are aware of the power of games as a platform or the creative industries as a platform to grow, then that would be fantastic. I'll give you one example. So there's a game from China, right? It's called as Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact, right? You got to get back on playing games. So Genshin Impact itself, it impacts quite a number of industry. The culinary industries, the Chinese industries of suan cai yi tang, the fish, right, with the sayur asin and all, right? It's featured in the game. And so when you actually play the games, when you look at it, you obviously would like to try the dish, right? So that's one. Second, Chinese opera. I'm Chinese descendant. I don't watch Chinese opera because it's boring, right? But looking at Genshin Impact and how it is, now you'll see in the scene of cosplays in Indonesia, you'll see a switch of the cosplays that's very Japanese-y. Now you'll see Chinese opera outfit as a cosplay. It is because of that one game, right? And then the last one that I remember is the handicraft. So the handicraft, the Chinese is really well known for their sulaman, right? Their stitching. And those art has been forgotten for a long time through that games because it's there. Now people are looking for that. So 3 industries, there are many more that are highlighted from one games. The rise of Wukong, for example, right? The most recent games. It highlights what? The folklore of Son Gokong.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now, Indonesia, we are so rich. And does Indonesians does it? They do. In a game called as a Space for Unbound, you can do it right now, right? Look into Google Maps, search Space for Unbound. There's a bridge in Surabaya that's now put in the games, and people who play that games, every time they go to Surabaya, they'll go there to take a picture. So that's the blurring lines between the two, and the industry is massive, it's vast.
All right, and now, what challenges does Indonesia face in building this thriving sports ecosystem, and how can creative economy help the economy to address these challenges?
For me, I think fundamentally is the mindset, Our mindsets and our hunger for growth needs to be there. And another thing is that as Indonesians, culturally, we are very, very humble. And so if we win something, right, people will say, congratulations, you're great. I say, no, I'm not great, I want to hide, right? So that's a good thing. That's the beauty of Indonesians. That's why from hospitality perspective, we serve from the heart. However, it's time for us to claim it, right? To start to claim it and grow our self-worth and confidence that, hey, I work hard for that and I deserve this. And so it is good. Stop doubting ourselves because we are there. Now, where does creative economy as a ministry come in? It's the first time ever we have a Ministry of Creative Economy, which means that the government have started to realize now that creativity and economy goes hand in hand. And it is the new fuel or new engine of growth for the entire economy. And so what we hope to do is to connect the dots and to see how we can move together as a powerhouse. we will not be able to move together. We will not be able to move alone. But together, using the basis of gotong royong, which is very Indonesian culture, we would be able to move together. It's not one ministry, it's multiple ministries need to go hand in hand. Thankfully, we have gone to Magelang, right? So all of us are very much aligned in the government, in the cabinet. And we have a hexahelix where we involve the communities, we involve the private sectors, the government, and so on and so forth, so that all of us need to march forward together. So that's my role, to see how we could connect the dots. Very quickly, in December, for example, there are 3 things that we connected. One is, if you go to Terminal 3 domestic airport, Jakarta, you'll be able to see a game corner that's filled up with all Indonesian games. That's a pride and joy for us. Second is that in Taman Mini Indonesia Indah, there's a Pojok Membaca, reading corners that features all Indonesian comics, all Indonesian magazines, and all Indonesians, the board games. Because all of us know board games as Monopoly, Uno, and that's it. Right. But Indonesia is pretty rich with what we have, right? So those titles are being featured there, and merchandise is for local IPs as well. Thirdly, we also launched with a hotel network in 5 cities, where right now you go into hotels, you can say that, hey, I want to borrow a PlayStation or a console games, and inside the games is all Indonesian games. So we did all that in December because we want to go after Nataru, right? Christmas and New Year's Eve. So we'll do a lot more of those this year, and hopefully that would scale up and that will create the awareness of how rich we are and how great our talents are.
All right, that's interesting. We need to talk again after Lebaran because that'll be interesting. But we're not done talking yet. We have to take a break. But we still gonna talk about the matter with Vice Minister Irene Umar here, and also we will invite Yasuo Senna from the Radical Indonesia and also Joshua Budiman Sekuya. See Today Business will be back. Stay tuned.